Hello, and welcome to the 8th session of Science, Metaphysics, and a Computer Simulation. I will discuss the Taurus, Venus, and the script for the number 2 in this session. The metaphysics of the number 2 can be very confusing. She seems to have two masters. In the world of duality, she occupies the yin, a responder to whatever is yang. She follows or becomes whatever the desires of the yang. However, she becomes the minus one, or the shadow, with the aim of undoing the yang, or one, at the event horizon. In a family of 8, the trigrams in the I Ching, she is the mother. Here, she is split by serving her mate and or the children if their demands clash. These are the energies of Libra and relations between equals, and those with children, Cancer, the all-nothing. There is a conflict between Cancer and Libra, as we will explore. She not only responds to the needs of her mate or children, but she also responds to Saturn. When directed, it's her energy which is removed that places her mate or child in a state of need and brings on the downfall cycle. In the sign of Taurus, she is joined within Earth to produce beauty. As such, she has value. The energy from Venus creates an array of attract repulsions to provide the correct amount of stress so as to initiate sex. Sex takes the form of a line surrounded by a circle. We initiate sex with objects outside ourselves when we choose to engage. Sex is combining yang and yin at all levels of creation. The balance, of course, of attract to repel is essential. Alkaloids are chemicals that contain all 4 of the elements, and when combined, offers mild to deadly cocktails so as to define that limit where thrill meets terror. And all are addictive. The cycle of the earth energy starts at Capricorn with the birth of the holy atom. The element earth is a factory where the holy atom is reproduced with the aim of creating the perfect crystal. Venus enters the picture in Taurus times and sprinkles areas with high and low saturation. These imperfections create beauty, which will attract the one. So at some level, a yoni is created for sex play. The synthesis is Virgo, and it deals with assimilating the mixture onto the hard drive. Recall the filters only allow passage for likes and may be a source of stress. The information regarding the mixture is stored for later recall. Beauty evolves with time, such that her value constantly increases. The more players stare at something, including themselves, and like what they see, the more beautiful they get. Of course, the opposite is also true. Thus, the goal in the pursuit of beauty is a total aloneness. Persephone was so beautiful that no man could woo her. Taurus time is the end of April and into May. April showers brings May flowers. The energy of Aries brings rewards in Taurus. May is the most beautiful time of the year. The flowers, they grow by themselves. Most May flowers are wild and require no care. Nothing needs to be done. Their fragrance, their profusion just happens. It's a gift from the goddess of love, Venus. Because of the natural charisma, the beauty of the earth, we are attracted to Mother Earth. Such beauty is a source of addiction. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the prettiest of them all. In Taurus, there is no longer any fear of the day forests being overtaken by night as winter is forgotten. Now we enjoy the bounty of the sun as the days get longer. Taurus time to the infant is a crisis called the terrible twos. For the first 2 years, the child is a beautiful toy and possibly malleable. The child quickly learns to make gestures that delight all the grown-ups. The child has learned to become a showman for all to marvel over. It is nearly impossible to upstage an infant. Just by its being, its innocence, all eyes turn towards it. It is learning to become an object of desire. The goddess of love has seemingly painted the infant with magic paint that attract all who see it to fall in love with it. During the time of Taurus, something dramatic happens. The planetary thinking mind turns on and suddenly the cute little toy starts to communicate. As intellect increases, the baby charisma decreases. Who wants a toy that talks back? This is the issue of the terrible twos as discussed previously. The battle is between mother and child, deals with letting go of baby charisma and developing the mind, or the ego. Taurus is a fixed sign and brings power to the aspirant. The degree to which the native is fixed is a measure of her addiction of being an object of desire. The more attraction, the more fixed the situation. Now note, even though Marilyn Monroe has Aries as her birth sign, she epitomizes the Taurus script. Be beauty, don't think. The solid state of matter, Earth, is given a veneer by Venus, such that it becomes an object of desire. This is not a transformation. Inwardly, it is still dark matter, but outwardly, it has a veneer of gold, just enough to make it attractive to others. In doing so, the earth becomes valuable and subject to the laws of commerce. Now, this piece of matter isn't stable. Unless a transmutation happens, the earth loses its charisma and returns to being a dark lump of matter. Taurus is the most feminine sign. In fact, Taurus epitomizes the woman's plight. In the Psyche myth, she is so beautiful, no mere mortal could woo her. Her beauty becomes her curse. Being beautiful or being rich is often a curse. Their charisma is so dominant that no one can see beyond the layer. The energy of Venus is so intense, their power of attraction so overwhelming that their partner becomes insecure, that over time they will start to resent the object of beauty. A chasm widens between them that soon can't be reached. Secondly, the rich or the beautiful never knows for certain who their real friends are. We tend to gravitate towards the rich, beautiful, and successful. Thus, the beautiful and the rich never knows whether they are loved for themselves or for their beauty and possessions. As such, they are forced to mingle only with their own kind, other rich and beautiful people. The Taurus native identifies with the characteristic feminine energy of innocence. A good description of this script is given by R.A. Johnson in his book, She. Psyche was so beautiful that no mere mortal could woo her. She was pedestalized for her outstanding, innocent beauty. Since she couldn't be mated, she was forced to marry Death. They chained her up and abandoned her. She was rescued by Eros, a solar god. She was allowed to live freely in his garden as his belonging. She had everything she wanted, as long as she knew her place. Eros, being a god, had to wear a mask to hide his divinity. She was warned never to take it off. In Taurus too, matter is cloaked with a coat of beauty. This is a gift from Venus. Because of this beauty or charisma, she is placed on a pedestal to worship, but not truly loved. The Taurus native projects out Scorpio on the cusp of the 7th house, which deals with wisdom resulting from the death of innocence. Eating from the tree of knowledge, and the ensuing eviction from the Garden of Innocence is the essence of Scorpio. The Taurus projects out this energy in order to remain innocent within the garden. The gift of Taurus, too, is on the cusp of the 5th house and Virgo. The trine of Taurus and Virgo represents the positive or the yang portion of the script, the one-trick pony. Taurus has a gift of bringing spiritual energy of Venus to her outer body or the masculine. Note, in this case, this passage brings forth the energy from Venus to the outer side. Since Virgo deals with the mind, the gift is the ability to project its image onto the visible. The synthesis is Cancer on the cusp of the 3rd house. Recall, the 3rd house is what is learned through observing the positive manifestation of the script. Through the projection resulting in bringing the spirit of the Venus to the outer side, the native receives comfort and nurturing. In essence, the Taurus can have anything she wants by living in the Garden of Innocence, owned by Eros, who protects her from harm. Taurus has Aquarius on the midheaven. This is the energy that triggers the switch, reversing the polarity and brings on the yin. Aquarius is an air sign with the need for freedom. Taurus is the earth sign, making boundaries that enslaves the air. There is a clash between wanting stability and a desire for change. She could stay safely in the garden, warmed and protected by the sun god, Leo, in the 4th house. Saturn, working through the sign of Aquarius, works by suffocation that brings on the yin cycle. She creates the change by removing his mask and exposing the god. Surprisingly, she is not consumed in flames, but she's ejected from the garden, left wandering, looking for her identity. In this grip, Saturn works in creating situations where the native learns to be choiceless between being Taurus and innocence, no duality, and stopping growth, or Scorpio, death of innocence, and bringer of duality and growth. Saturn works through the sign of Aquarius and Leo to bring about balance in this grip. The Taurus native residing in the garden would feel a need for her own light, her own sun, or of Leo. This is desire for consciousness in this world, a higher place and not a possession to someone else. To be a possession is to be imprisoned, even if the prison is a paradise. The need for ego brings on the yin portion of the script. This script is the plight of the unliberated woman who lives in a garden provided by the man of the house. Her difficulties lies in the struggle between the warmth of the garden versus getting out into the cold to conquer the world. We see in the square between Taurus, 1st house cusp, and Leo, 4th house. Leo forms a trine, flowing aspects to Sagittarius, and represents the creative side of the yin portion of the script. Sagittarius deals with understanding, trust, and faith. In order to create in the world, she has to learn to have faith and trust in herself. Sadly, many women who finally jump out of the garbage can find the fresh air in the night too scary and jump back in. The Taurus native with the need for ego finds she has no understanding of how to manifest in this masculine world. She has heavy belief systems that work against her abilities in the world of the masculine. Thus, Sagittarius represents belief systems, works in a negative way to bring balance between Taurus and Scorpio. The synthesis of the yin portion of the script is the sign of Libra on the cusp of the 6th house. What she draws is Venus, ruler of Libra. As a beautiful object, she draws Venus energy from others. The more she remains an object, the more this energy is attracted to her, and the harder it gets to find her sun or light. She constantly is told to be beautiful, don't think. As a result of the yin portion, she loses the energy she values the most, the ability to think. Gemini, the 2nd house cusp. In the Psyche myth, when she was thrown out of the garden, She wandered aimlessly looking for her identity, her son. She was incapable of thinking. Libra, on the cusp of the sixth house, becomes the transmuting energy which converts the Taurus to its opposite, Scorpio. The Taurus native draws increasingly more Venus energy towards her to the point where it kills her, Marilyn Monroe, physically or psychologically. To survive, she must kill that side of herself that gets high being an object. By bringing in duality, the negative side of being an object is exposed. This happens to so many people living in a garden. They look desperately to be on their own, but nothing comes. While in the garden, they are a planet orbiting their solar god. It's very blinding looking to the Leo's light. You are incapable of finding your light while being there. The only way is to make the jump and face the darkness. Psyche wandered into the domain of Aphrodite and was given an initiation involving 4 tests. The first was sorting, Virgo. She had a gigantic task of sorting big beans from small ones. It was such an enormous task that she gave up, surrendered to her higher self. She released her lower mind of denial, and her inner masculine sorted the beans. Her next task was to secure the golden fleece. This is a masculine task, getting into Mars and Aries and conquer the beast. Again, she surrendered to the inner male who chose the Libra route and went to the place where the animals grazed and harvested from the surrounding bushes. Her next task was to get water from the river Styx, the gateway to the other life or Hades. Again she surrendered, and her inner masculine, Sagittarius, flew like an eagle and secured the water. Her final task was the trip to the inner world and secure a portion of drugs from Persephone and bring it back to Aphrodite. It was a hazardous trip, but she made it down and back. Her curiosity got the best of her and she took some drugs. It killed her. The moral: what is medicine in the inner world is poison in the outer world. The magic within the inner world is not meant to be used in the outer world. It is only through a great risk, by leaving the garden, not knowing what to do, no future security, that one must take. Until the Taurus makes the jump, she will continue to live in the garden of innocence, unhappily watching her creativity dissipate. I could have been a contender. The scenario is typical of fixed signs, because they can attract energy from the universe. The more they exercise their gift, the more it brings an unbalanced situation. It leads to an addiction that will bring death if not dealt with. They must learn to be responsible for their power. Another variation of the script is the terrible twos, as previously discussed. The 2-year-old develops the tricks of being charismatic. What he eventually learns is that the 2-year-old trick is useless at 4. Time has the ability to end a certain charisma. It is sad to see an aging individual trying to cash in on some old charisma where time has passed it by. The Taurus script shows us that looking for the sun outside of ourselves demands a heavy price. By being an object, she becomes a satellite for someone else. Over time, this becomes uncomfortable for her, and eventually she must give up being the beloved in order to find her true self. The dilemma of this script is delineated by the square of Taurus to Leo. People with planets in these signs will have to deal in some part with this script. People with Virgo trine Taurus and Leo trine Sagittarius will also have some issues here. Anyone with planets in Taurus will have something to learn from the script. Again, Venus, the planetary ruler of the chart, will provide some clues to the block. Since Venus has only conjunctions with the Sun, we have to look elsewhere for the clues. The inferior conjunction would suggest that she learns justice in relationships before she can become the beloved. There are many archetypes for the participants to play out the 2 script in their dramas structuring time. You were born into real royalty as your parents worship your baby charisma. An early issue, The Terrible Twos, was the struggle between you and parents. Did you enjoy infanthood so much you refused to grow? Did they nurture it, creating a spoiled child that never grew up? This retarded growth puts you in a role of being beautiful but not thinking. Or did your parents become ruthless in their attempts to make you grow up, resulting in learning street smartness at the expense of childhood innocence? Did you have enough charisma to get your dream mate? Did you have too much, too beautiful that no mere mortal could woo you? All they did was pedestalize you, and you were isolated, a prisoner in their garden of desire. What happened when you fell off? Did you have too little charisma and spent a lonely life of bitterness? Did you choose intellectual charisma at the expense of physical beauty? Were you ever able to surrender to him, your keeper in the garden of desire? You know that you only surrender to a God. Is he a God? If so, he must prove it. You allow yourself to become a prisoner in an enemy's castle, so to test his godliness. In order to get the stress necessary for sex, our hero must cross the moat, climb the walls, and rescue from evil. When the walls become too high, then he proves he is not a god, preventing you from surrender. How quickly does it take for you to find the secrets of their strength? As you learn through relationships, is that there cannot be any surrender to a mere mortal. Do you need drugs to see him as a god? Two is in the world is impossible to pinpoint. The concept of yin is overwhelming. Recall, she starts to roll in the world of one within an event horizon at -1, or the shadow, with the aim to undermine him. In the world of two, she strives to fulfill him in every way. In this way, two is complete, the divine marriage. In this world, 2 equals 0. In the chemical elements, the first 2 elements is complete in itself. As mentioned, the second unit is the subatomic element, is a reactive species, while being the most inert chemical element, helium. The number 2 within the nucleus is the alpha particle, which is the first to leave when the element dies and starts to decay in fusion. The second major arcana in the tarot is the high priestess, forever pure, an observer, not a participant. Here she reflects helium. As helium-2, she is an active species in alchemy, not chemistry. Her presence indicates that a nuclear event has occurred. She goes from active within the nucleus to inactive when present at the element. In both cases, her activity resides in the disappearing act, leaving a void that demands that others fill it. As shown, the number 2 is very complex relative to the number 1. In her role, she gives all to the children and strives to be balanced with equals. She must learn not to get these roles confused. However, in her being, she has an ego sniffer and disappears when the alarm goes off. Her goal is to make that property conscious. In this session, the number 2 in the Taurus script was discussed. There wasn't really a yang portion. It consists of doing nothing, remain in innocence, to become an object for somebody else. As an object, all needs are taken care of as long as you play the role. Over time, the quest for your identity provides the stress to take the leap, pull off his mask, and break the darkness and start the search for your own identity. You learn that acts of purifying the outer world has repercussions within the inner wisdom is attained. Relationships in the outer world improves when you learn ways to win without the win-lose approach. You learn that surrendering is the door to intuition and it will direct you on your path. Finally, you take the trip deep within to purge out the addictions of being an object. In the next session, the number 3 and the Gemini script will be discussed. The transition of 2 to 3 involves the feminine moving from being an observer to a participant. Again, thanks for listening to these sessions. Please leave comments and join me on the next session. Good day.